Hello and welcome. My name is Aniket, and this is Swadharma IES Academy. Today, we are going to tackle a very fundamental question, a question that lies at the very heart of Indian governance, the relationship between the center and the states. Now, for all of you preparing for your civil services exams, this is not just another chapter in polity. It is the blueprint of how our entire nation operates. Understanding this dynamic is absolutely key to understanding India's unique federal character.
So let's start with this very direct question. Who really is the boss? Is it the union government sitting in New Delhi that calls all the shots? Or is it the state governments, who are, in their own right, sovereign in their own territories? Well, the answer, as is often the case in our Constitution, is not so simple. It lies in a very delicate, very carefully designed balance of power.
And to understand this balance, we need to talk about the concept of federalism. Let's use an analogy that will make it very clear for all of us. Imagine India is a large family home. In this home, the center, or the union government, is like the responsible older brother. The states are like the younger siblings. Now, everyone in this house has to live by the same set of rules, right? And those house rules are our Constitution. The older brother has more responsibility for the entire family's well-being, security, finances, and therefore has a bit more authority. But at the same time, each of the younger siblings has their own room, their own space, their own autonomy. All right, so let's examine this family arrangement a little more closely. How did our founding fathers, the framers of the Constitution, actually divide these responsibilities between the big brother and the younger siblings? You see, this is not a haphazard arrangement. It's a meticulously structured relationship designed to ensure that everyone can work together. The Constitution architects this center-state relationship across three main pillars. First, we have legislative relations. This basically answers the question, who gets to make the laws? Second, administrative relations, which is about who gets to enforce or implement these laws. And third, financial relations, which deals with the all-important question, who controls the money? Now, all three are deeply interconnected, but for this discussion, we will focus on the first and most fundamental one, the legislative powers, because after all, everything starts with the power to make a rule.
So, to avoid any confusion, to prevent any fights between the siblings over who does what, the Constitution lays out a very clear list of, let's call them, chores. These are the subjects or topics on which each level of government can make laws, and this division is truly the cornerstone of our entire legislative framework. Now, this isn't just some informal understanding. No, it's formally written down, it's codified in the 7th schedule of the Indian Constitution. This schedule gives us a concrete, exhaustive distribution of all the legislative subjects into 3 distinct lists. The whole point was to minimize ambiguity and therefore minimize conflict.
So what are these 3 lists? First, we have the union list. Think of these as the big national-level chores that are exclusively for the older brother, the center. Things like defense of the country, foreign affairs, currency, banking. Subjects that need a single uniform policy across the nation. Then we have the state list. These are the local chores, matters best handled by the states, like the police, public health, agriculture. And finally, we have the concurrent list. This is a list of shared chores. Things like education, forests, marriage and divorce, where both the center and the states can make laws. Now, if we look at the numbers, a very interesting picture emerges. The union list has 98 subjects. The state list has 59, and the concurrent list has 52. What does this tell you? It's not just that the union list is the longest, it also contains the most significant subjects for running a country. This was a deliberate choice by the Constituent Assembly. It shows a clear bias towards a strong center. Our older brother clearly has the most responsibilities on his plate. Okay, but what happens when there's a disagreement? Let's say both the center and a state make a law on a shared chore from the concurrent list, say on education. And what if these 2 laws conflict with each other? Well, the Constitution provides a very clear tiebreaker. The law made by the Parliament, by the center, will prevail. The union law gets precedence. The older brother's decision in a dispute is final.
But think about this. The Constitution was written in 1950. The framers could not have possibly imagined subjects like cybersecurity or space travel or, as you see here, regulating artificial intelligence. So what about these new chores that nobody thought of? These are called residuary subjects, and our Constitution is very clear. Any subject that is not mentioned in any of the 3 lists automatically goes to the center. This is another feature that strengthens the union government's position.
So we have this clear division of chores, these separate domains. But is this separation absolute? Is the wall between the center's powers and the state's powers completely rigid? The answer is no. Our Constitution itself provides for 5 extraordinary situations where the big brother can step in and make laws on a chore that normally belongs to the younger siblings.
Let's quickly go through these 5 exceptions. 1. In the national interest. For this, the Rajya Sabha, the Council of States which represents the states themselves, must pass a resolution with a special 2/3 majority. 2. During a national emergency. When the security of the nation is at stake, the structure becomes almost entirely unitary. 3. If 2 or more states themselves ask the center to make a law for them. 4. To implement international treaties. And finally, number 5, during the imposition of president's rule in a state. These exceptions show that our federal system has a lot of flexibility and can become quite centralized when needed. So when you have a system like this, with a powerful center, but with constitutionally protected states, what you get is a continuous balancing act. It is a system designed for both cooperation and, at times, you will see, for inevitable conflict. Let's see how this actually plays out. This power imbalance naturally creates certain points of friction. One of the most classic examples is the office of the governor. You see, the governor is appointed by the president on the advice of the center, but acts as the constitutional head of the state. This can lead to conflicts with the elected chief minister and the state government. Another major flashpoint is the use of Article 356, which allows the center to dismiss the state government and impose president's rule. This has been one of the most controversial provisions of our Constitution. This slide, I think, captures the whole essence of our system perfectly. It shows the dual personality of our Constitution. This is why many experts describe India not as a true federation, but as quasi-federal. On the one hand, you have classic federal features, a dual polity, government at both center and state, a clear division of powers, a written constitution, and independent judiciary. But on the other hand, you have very strong unitary or non-federal features, a strong center, a single constitution for both union and states, the centrally appointed governor, and, as we saw, Parliament's ability to encroach upon the state list.
So, with all this tension and this complex balance, who plays the role of the umpire, the referee? Well, that crucial role falls to the judiciary, and specifically the Supreme Court. And its interpretation in the landmark 1994 S.R. Bomai case was a game changer. The court said something profound. It said that federalism in India is not just some administrative arrangement for convenience. It is a matter of principle. It is part of the basic structure of the Constitution.
And that is why this judgment is often called the Magna Carta of Indian federalism. Why is it so important? Because it puts significant checks on the center's power to misuse Article 356. The court laid down that the power to impose president's rule is not absolute. It is conditional and it is subject to judicial review. This created a huge constitutional safeguard for the autonomy of state governments, protecting them from being dismissed for purely political reasons.
Which brings us back full circle to our main question. This very intricate, quasi-federal system, with its clear bias towards a strong center, but also with constitutionally protected rights for the states, all umpired by the judiciary, is this a feature? A genius design perfectly suited for a country as vast and diverse as India? Or is it a fundamental flaw, a constant source of tension that prevents true federal harmony? This, my friends, is the great, ongoing debate at the heart of the center-state relationship that continues to shape our nation's politics and its future.